What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more content for you guys today. And what we're going to be looking at is the comparisons between the first 6 games this season under Ange Postecoglou and the first 6 games last season under Antonio Conte. If you do cast your mind back to last season, we did have a good start to the season in terms of results, and the points tally does look very similar to what it looks like.
Not just very similar,
well,
exactly
identical.
the same.
Should I say identical? It looks towards this season and last season. So we're going to do a comparison, look at the underlying stats of everything going into it, and see what's changed basically from now until last season.
Yeah, because last season, I remember, I think this is actually the period where we had the first 6 games, and this was probably the next game was the North London derby for us actually last season. And it's interesting to see because the results are exactly the same. Last season, after 6 games, 4 wins, 2 draws, scored 12, conceded 5. This season, 4 wins, 2 draws, scored 15, conceded 6. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what the underlying stats are between the performances, because objectively, if you're looking at it, you can think, oh, look, Tottenham had a very similar start last season. Maybe the bubble will burst very similarly this season to what it did last season. But I'm going to maybe show with these stats what the key differences are between how we're performing now and how we performed at the beginning of last season.
Yeah, I do think the kind of, even if the numbers are the same in terms of points, the narratives are still very different, I think, in terms of when you're looking at the perception from the Spurs fan base. Like last season, after 6 games, I remember very clearly both of us sitting here saying, yeah, look, it's all good. We're getting the points on the board, but we're not actually playing that well. I remember both of us saying, like, you just wait till we click. You just wait. That never
took us a year.
Did take us a year. That never seemed to happen. But on the flip side of it, after 6 games now under Ange Postecoglou, we're very happy with the way we're playing, and it seems as though that we've got a clear way that we want to play, and we're very happy with that way that we're playing. So that being said, let's have a look at the underlying stats.
So we'll start with the possession stats. So these are the stats. This is comparing Ange in his first 6 games compared to Conte's first 6 games of last season. So as you can see, average possession way up, 59% compared to 50% last season. Touches in the opposition's attacking third. Look at least 500 more touches, and touches in the penalty area, nearly 100 more as well, 237 to 155. Take-ons, 159 to 102, so a lot more dribbling.
Is that 155 touches in the penalty area, like 100% Harry Kane?
Literally, like no one else was really touching it. Successful take-ons, 78 to 39, so literally nearly double successful take-ons. Carries 209 to 2-1, so nearly 1,000 more essentially, or 800 more. Progressive carries 179 to 112. Carries in the final third, 117 to 73. Carries into the penalty area, 66 to 41. Progressive passes received, 315 to 234. But this is quite interesting. Dispossessed is exactly the same. So despite the fact that we're playing a lot riskier, a lot more positively, carrying the ball a lot more, the number of times we were dispossessed, even though we were risk averse last season, was identical, which maybe shows even we're getting the high rewards, but for the good play, but we're still getting dispossessed a similar amount of time to a risk averse kind of structure.
We did say a number of times attack is the best form of defence, not just under Conte. We said it under Nuno, we said it under Jose Mourinho when we were getting frustrated at times with the way we were playing our football. Does that play into that narrative?
Potentially. I just think it's very clearly the numbers about. This is all about us in possession, how confident we are taking the ball, carrying the ball forward with our own confidence, instead of being much more rigid structure like we were last season, where it's much more about getting the ball, passing it quickly, more direct attack. And this is obviously a lot more players taking their own responsibility. And when you're basically have possession of the ball, it's not all about just treating it not like a hot potato, but having first of all options. But if you see a player coming to press you, you don't have to just get rid of it because you're under pressure. You can carry the ball, you can take him on if you see the space, and that, I think those stats bear it out. Successful take on 78 compared to 39, that's pretty much double last season.
The dispossessed stat is actually more impressive than last season as well. I know it's identical in numbers, but we have more of the ball this year, so it's actually more chances of Spurs to be dispossessed.
Exactly. Exactly the point. So I think that goes to show that even though we're taking more risks in possession, we're still getting dispossessed the same amount of times, which goes to show the improvement we've made, I think, maybe on the ball. If we go next, I want to look at can we look at the passing stats? So this is the passing stats compared this season to last season. 3,104 passes in Ange's first 6 games, 2,649 in Conte. Key pass 85 to 69. Passes into the final third, 250 to 163, so nearly 100 more. Passes into the penalty area, 77 to 56, so improvement there. Progressive passes 317 to 237. Passing accuracy 85% to 82.9. Through balls 19 to 7, so much more offensive, like looking for those balls in behind. And then crosses, Conte, we were much more likely to cross the ball from out wide. But I think that also goes to show like how we had to resort to going to wide areas a lot more under Conte and trying to whip crosses in rather than trying to play through the lines.
Yeah, that was like a specific plan though under Conte, because he wanted his wing backs to get pushed high up the pitch and really just attack out wide. He didn't really want to attack through the middle, especially with the midfield players. It was mainly like Højbjerg and Skip through the middle, who don't have exactly the best stats in that sort of section. But when you're looking at which one was I looking at before, the passing accuracy, 82.9% under Conte, 85% for Ange Postecoglou. And what you got to remember from those passing stats, the passing under Conte was mainly kind of sideways, backwards, not very much progressive, as you can see by the progressive numbers, where as the passing accuracy 85%, which has gone up, plus you're playing more riskier passes in that, so that's even more impressive.
100%. You're playing more forward passes and they're more accurate. When you play forward passes, then they're more likely to get intercepted. Opposition teams are more likely to be looking to win the ball back in those situations, and the fact that the passing accuracy can go up and you can play more forward passes, I think goes to show the quality of our players improving, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what's even more impressive is that some of these players that have been a key part of Ange Postecoglou's system, when you look at Bissouma and Pape Matar, who we had last year, and we just didn't utilise them to the best of their abilities, especially Yves Bissouma, where every time he came in, it just seemed like he had the shackles on him. He wasn't kind of ball carrying. He wasn't showing all the key strengths that he's showing this season. He was mainly just passing it sideways and backwards. So I think these stats look even more impressive when you take that into account.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, because a lot of the players who are making that difference were here last season. I think it goes to show that the different way of playing, they're really buying into it and they're really like thriving under this new way of playing. And I think the stats show that. And I think you're right, absolutely right. Bissouma has been a massive, massive part of it, and he's making a lot of those passes forward. And it's a complete different way of playing. And I think the stats bear that out.
Yeah, and also the crosses. I mean, it's no kind of surprise to me that the crosses are still more last year than they are this year, just because of how focused we actually were on those wide areas. But let's go and have a look at the defensive stats.
Yeah, so looking at the defensive stats, you've got which is quite interesting considering we were quite a low block last season. You would have thought maybe some of the defensive numbers would be higher, but tackles 68 this season, 54 last season. Tackles in the attacking third, 19 this season, 11 last season. Clearances 115 this season, 134 last season. Probably goes to show we were probably under the cosh a bit more. Interceptions 52 this season, 54 last season. Shots blocked 23 this season, 28 last season. Goals conceded 6 this season, 5 last season. Shots against 78 this season, 86 last season. So we're facing a lot more attempts. Shots on target 27 this season, 16 last season. So maybe we're facing better quality kind of attempts this season.
More open.
Yeah, a bit more open. The average distance of the attempted shots against us this season is 17 yards. Last season 18. So I guess we were keeping teams more at arm's length last season when it comes to where they were taking the attempts. XG against 8.7 this season, 5.6 this season. But if you take away penalties, non-penalty XG 7.4 to 5.6, so it looks a bit nicer considering, you know, the couple penalties we got were a bit dodgy. Touches in the penalty area, 152 to 150 last season. So teams are getting fairly similar amount of touches in the penalty area. But look at this, touches in the final third though, 840 this season to 1,157. So a massive difference on the amount of times that teams actually having a possession in our final third, which makes a big difference. And progressive passes received, 188 this season to 268 last season. So I would say what we can learn from the defensive stats is we're still kind of very open, but I would say a lot of the defensive stats are fairly similar to last season, despite the fact that we were much more defensive last season and conceding a lot more opportunities. Yes, we're more open this season, so maybe the chances we're conceding are a bit more, but I would say there's not a massive difference compared to the massive difference in the attacking numbers.
Yeah, and that just shows like the risk definitely outweighs the negative in terms of the way we're playing our football right now. But also you've got to caveat it with the teams that we've played as well so far. And I feel like we've had a harder start this year than we did last year. I know we played Chelsea away last year, but the other teams that we played were Southampton at home, who ended up getting relegated, Wolves at home, which obviously didn't have the greatest season last year, Forest away, which was a newly promoted side, and West Ham away in our first 6 games. I think that's 5 actually, and then Fulham at home. So first of all, we had more home games, which was obviously a positive, and second of all, this year we've played Arsenal away, which is one of our hardest, if not our hardest game of the season. We've played Manchester United at home, which historically is a very hard game for us. And yes, we've played a couple of the promoted sides as well. But I do feel like in terms of how teams create chances against us, obviously I think we've come up against harder opposition this year than we had last year.
But I think the two telling stats on that is touches in the final third that we've conceded is massive difference to last season. So the opposition are having a lot less possession in the dangerous areas, and progressive passes received as well. It was a lot more last season. So the players are picking up the possession in a lot more dangerous areas as well last season than they were this season. And even though when they do get their chances, it seems though they are creating decent quality opportunities, they're getting less of them, which is really, really positive. I feel like less opportunity to do that. But obviously, look, it's a work in progress. There's still 6 games in, so you hope those stats improve a bit. But I think that stat touching the final third shows that we're just keeping the ball a lot more, and the opposition are struggling to get into our final third a bit more.
With the way we're playing at the moment, offensively, defensively, we've spoken before saying we think we're like maybe ahead of schedule with where you know maybe thought we were going to be at this stage 6 games in. Where did you think, like how far into the season did you think it would take us to get to these kind of levels?
Probably January, or even like to the level that we're playing right now. I think definitely not 6 games in. I thought it would be a lot later than that. So I'm very, very impressed with what we've been showing so far this season. Especially, maybe to the level we're playing now, like going toe-to-toe with Arsenal, the Emirates and stuff like that. Definitely second half of the season at like the very most, I would have said. So the fact we're doing that 6 games in is very impressive. But I thought, sorry, the very least. But I would say maybe I was hoping that by kind of October, November time, we'd start to see the side what Ange is trying to build. We literally have seen it from day one, which is incredible.
Even from pre-season.
Yeah, really, even from
essentially. So let's look at the shooting stats now.
And these are the most offensive stats. And obviously, this is the biggest difference. Goals, 14 this season, 10 last season. Shots, 140. I think goals actually we've got 50. That might have been a typo. But shots, 114 this season to 91 last season. Shots on target, 44 to 35. XG is actually not a massive difference, 10.9 to 10.1. But again, we haven't had a penalty this season. So if you take away open play assists, it's 10.9.
First 6 games last season?
We had 1 penalty, I think, in the first 6 games. So 9.3 non-penalty actually. Shot creating actions 198 to 159. This one's quite interesting. Average distance that we're having attempts where we're taking a lot more long range attempts, which I think goes why maybe our shooting numbers are up. It seemed as though maybe last season we only really went for goal when there was a good opportunity. But I think that's good because we've got good long range shooters. You've got to take advantage of that.
I actually remember us saying at the beginning of last season, I can't remember at what stage it was, but I remember saying Harry Kane never takes shots from outside the box anymore. What's going on? Like Conte wanted him to stick in. I mean, I know it changed throughout the season, and Kane was dropping deeper and deeper. But at the beginning stage of the season, Kane was just there, just as in the number 9, trying to get balls into him consistently, time and time again. So I think that might be a reason for those stats. And Also, you've got to remember this season, we've played a couple of teams where they've just sat in a low block. Sheffield United did it, and there was one more team that did it. Brentford did it as well. So I think that's another reason why we're taking shots from quite far out.
Yeah, and when you've got players like Maddison, you've got players like Son, even Solomon, like these players are very good when it comes to shooting from range. And if teams are going to sit back and restrict your space in the penalty area, that is a valid route to try and break the deadlock and try and open up the game. And I think it's a good thing that we're taking more long range efforts. When you've got that kind of quality, that can really help, really hurt the opposition. And it's harder for them to stop that when you've got good long-range shooters. So, look, I think basically the takeaway is, despite the fact that the results are similar, I think the approaches couldn't be any more different and the performances couldn't be any more different. And that's why, despite the results being identical at this point last season and this season, Spurs fans are a lot more excited this season about where we're headed and what's happening on the pitch.
Yeah, and I guess it was kind of just after this where things started to proper unravel, because in late September we had the Leicester game, and then we played Arsenal in the beginning of October, and then we were getting consistent results after that, but whenever we came against a decent side, we got found wanting, because we lost to Arsenal, we lost to Manchester United, we lost to Newcastle at home, and then we lost to Liverpool. You know, whenever we came up against a decent opposition, we lost every single time. And this year already, you know, we've played Manchester United, we've beaten them, albeit fine. Manchester United not on form, but even when they're not on form, they give us a hard game usually. And Arsenal, we've gone to Arsenal and taken a point off them as well. So you can clearly see that even when we come up against a good side, a decent opposition, or a top six side, let's say, not say a good side because that's a bit disrespectful, but you know, we're playing well in games and we're deserving of points.
And we're doing it playing the football that you've seen with those stats, with the high
the
possession,
way we want to.
With exactly
In
confidence,
Postecoglou, whether I'm right or wrong.
Exactly. No better way to end the video. There we go. But yeah, I think it's exactly the. I think that's the main thing. Like we're getting these results, and we're playing against better teams and getting really positive results with the way that Ange wants to play, and that's just the most positive thing we can see.
Well, roll on to Liverpool this weekend, and you're looking at the fixtures, and you're thinking, like, if we can get a result against Liverpool, games after that: Luton, Fulham, Palace, Chelsea, Wolves, Villa.
I love how you throw Chelsea in the easy pile now.
But I mean, we've got like very winnable games after this Liverpool game. So,
and as Son said, they won't want to face us.
They will not want to face us.
They will not, like, genuinely now. I think you can, like, that's not even tongue in cheek anymore. I don't think they will.
No, I don't think so. And I'm looking at Liverpool, and yes, they're playing really well going forward, but you get chances against them. And we do every year. It's not like just because of this year, the way they're playing. We get chances against Liverpool every single year because of the high line they play. And with players like Heung-min Son, Brennan Johnson, we'll get chances there. It's just about the same old story: is can we finish those chances against Liverpool?
But as you can see, we'll concede chances as well by those.
Yeah, of course we'll
concede
chances. But it's going to be a good game of football once again. But look, thank you everyone for joining us today for that comparison between the first 6 games last season and this season. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts. And we'll see you very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.